If you've been listening to the podcast for a while and thought, man, I would love to grab a drink and pick the brain of some of these guests I've been listening to, or maybe me as well, here's your shot. I'm putting on an event this April called Elevate. This is the third year doing this, and we're going to be in Phoenix, Arizona, where we're going to have the top agency owners really come together, share what's working, get real on what's not, and really help each other scale faster. So if you're ready to finally get out of the weeds and grow your agency the right way, I want you to join me and 50 other amazing 7 and 8 figure agencies at Elevate. You'll connect with people who've been there, leave with a real growth plan, and actually enjoy the process. Now, we only have a few tickets left, so make sure you go over to elevatemyagency.com to lock in your spot now. Go to elevatemyagency.com now. You're listening to the Smart Agency Masterclass with me, Jason Swank, and we're bringing you this episode courtesy of our friends at Wix Studio. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, it's good to be on.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Eric Gray. I spent, 18 years building social and content and influencer teams, really at the biggest level for Fortune 500 brands like esports and Universal Parks and Resorts, and was living the dream for a long time. Some people would say I had a dream job. I used to tell myself if I left this, there'd be a line of people out the door to have this job. Are you crazy? And I am crazy, like many of your listeners, because I felt like that I wanted to pursue a different life full of purpose and passion and make the jump to first-time entrepreneur. And we're about 2.5 years in of building Maverick Content Studio, a social-first content agency for Fortune 500 brands, which is kind of what my familiar is with enterprise-level brands. And we're here in Orlando, Florida. I got a team of about 12 people, and things are going good and bad and hard. You know, it's entrepreneurship, so that's what we're doing.
It's never sunshine and rainbows like everyone always thinks. Like when you feel like you're at the top, something will come and knock you off. And then you have to kind of, bear crawl your way all the way back to the spot that you were. And then, kind of push forward. It's always pretty exciting on that. What made you decide to leave that dream job and start an agency?
When my counselor, therapist first told me, man, Eric, you should really think about helping other people in marketing. That's where your network is. That's where your industry is. And to be honest, like marketing and the industry had kind of broken me down a little bit to where I thought I didn't want to do that, even though I had, so much experience. And I believe a strong point of view about the world of marketing, brand building, content, and social. And so, there was a time where that wasn't the obvious answer. I knew I needed a change. But I think the main thing was, I was 41, looking at my life and doing what sometimes men do, I guess women do as well, in their early 40s to kind of take stock of where they are. And I just looked around and I saw the people that were at my company that were in their late 50s and 60s, and nothing against them. They're having great careers and it's a great company. But I didn't see a future I wanted. I felt like I was made for more. This is a sign that I kind of keep up here. It says, dream big, have fun, and make impact. And I didn't believe I was living my full purpose inside of an organization with lots of layers, lots of politics, and lots of bureaucracy. Again, that sounds like I'm throwing things at corporate America. I think it's the right decision for a lot of people. And I learned so much with my time in those places. I couldn't do this today without that time learning, leading, building. And so a lot of people there gave me a platform to have the skills to do what I did today. But ultimately, it took multiple years, honestly, for me to make that call because it was a hard decision. I mean, when I left Universal, I had like 2 months of runway. I didn't have a single client. I've never freelanced. I didn't have a project on the hook like all the books tell you to do. But I just knew that my time had come and that I knew there was another life. And I couldn't kind of lay awake when I'm 60 or 70 and 80 and wonder what if. There's an author by the name of Mark Batterson. He talks about some stuff that a lot of people talk about, which is, talking to people older in their life and they're 70, 80 years old. And they always say they had this one thing in common, which was they all wish they would have taken more risk. And that just stuck with me, man. And I just knew that I wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied, and I was made for more. And so after a lot of conversations with my wife, my pastor, my dad, a lot of prayer, we decided to make the jump.
What made you choose going after the Fortune 500 companies?
I think it's probably just what I know. I've built enterprise level teams, brands, infrastructure, and it's what I know. And so I thought that we built a blueprint at Universal through our social that I believed that I could take to other brands that look at social and don't really give it the respect it deserves. Many of them oftentimes have small teams, they're underinvested. And what we try to say is this is where there's gold. And all you're doing is spending your time on one big campaign with one big piece of key art and just trying to put this media out there. And that's one way of doing it. But we believe foundationally in what we call the connection strategy, which is about building audience and building loyalty over time to firmly establish the brand. So I think it was partly our passion to really tell stories for brands that people are fans of and that people want to connect emotionally with. So that is where I have interest in. And two, it's just my experience, my network, and kind of what I know and what I love.
How did you start getting some of the Fortune 500 companies? Was it the network that you built over the years and you said, hey, I'm going out on my own. This is what we're doing. This is what we believe. Or was there cold calling? How did you land some of these big accounts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're mainly network, right? Or network of network. And the good thing, the cool thing about doing what we do, and everybody's got a different business model, is when you're working with larger brands, we have larger scope of works and larger, overall contracts with some of these brands. So you don't need 20 or 30 or 40 clients, but that's again part of our model. Like we didn't want to churn through content. I didn't want to build someone a website or build someone a couple of videos and there's nothing against that. I wanted to get into their business, understand their brand, and help them completely turn their brand around and make people care about it. I oftentimes say, and hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, that I'm not an agency guy. I'm a brand guy who owns an agency. And that's really how I think and believe. I loved working in brands. I never thought I would not work for a brand in brands because I love to really understand the inner workings of that brand and how it wants to strategically move and connect emotionally with people. And that's where my passion kind of set for a long time and still does today. And so I really look at what we're doing. I mean, I don't think we've hired anybody that worked in an agency. Like we're just breaking a lot of rules. I mean, we named our company Maverick. And so you can kind of see there's a little bit of a trend there. But yeah, that's a little bit of why we kind of made that decision, how we started getting some of those clients. And then they just talk to each other, right? Like big brands kind of talk to each other. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Like outside of network, it's going to be really hard to break through. And we got a lot of work still to do. But if you can get a few of those, like, we have Advent Health, Winn-Dixie, Travel and Leisure, we can start to build on that.
Let's talk about building, because there's a lot of agency owners listening that do a really bad job at building their own brand.
Yeah.
Specifically on social, right? They always talk about their people, their process, their portfolio. It's like the 3 Ps I want to just throw up every time I hear. So if you were going to, let's say, take on an agency client and build their brand up, what would you do?
Oh man, I mean, it probably, the agency owner me is to really understand their business goals and to sit down with them and discuss that. But if we put that to the side for a minute, I'll tell a couple stories. So the first one was when I left Universal, there's a ton of people that leave Disney or Universal and then go on to be consultants or doing workshops and stuff like that. I never wanted to be that guy that was leaving this big job and then post on LinkedIn and is like, hey, I left Universal. Who knows what's next? I'm excited about the future. But if someone needs any help, let me know. No offense, but like that's a loser's way in. There's no winning in that game, right? You're just now one of a million people that had a big job and now you're a nobody. So we came out from the beginning and we wanted to build Maverick as a brand. And we wanted to also in parallel build Eric's personal brand. And that was a very strategic decision. So when we started talking about Maverick and what Maverick can be and how this, from the jump, everybody thought we were a bigger agency than we were before. Now we've got 12 team members and now we have an office and now we're doing some things and we feel a lot more established. But in the beginning, man, it was just me and a dream, my wife believing in me in our front little office of our house, which I'm sure a lot of people relate to. And we wanted to build the perception that there was something bigger cooking. And it worked. I mean, there were people that were like, how are you doing this? So that was one thing. The second thing we did, and again, this is just from my background, I was originally in sports radio. And so being behind a microphone and being on camera was something I'm very familiar with and enjoy. And so I immediately wanted to start building audience, building loyalty through what we can create. So transitioning personal accounts into business accounts, starting to try to figure out, we launched our podcast called Radical Content, started interviewing some of the biggest names, the former CMO of Chick-fil-A, the head of digital marketing for NASCAR, the former head of social for Crocs. I mean, we got some really big names on the podcast pretty quickly, built out our newsletter, built out our socials, and just went full on. And look, this is what we know and love. You know, we like to joke around that like people leave their full service shops to come to us to do social when they realize their full service shops actually don't know how to do social, because it's hard. It's very intricate. It's very detailed. And you got to sweat the small stuff. You got to understand the importance of size and retention and hooks and all of the things that we do that make us great at what we do. And so we invested in that. And one of the first things I'd say that I did, and it didn't necessarily work out with this person, was I hired a little producer to kind of help me just offload some things that we were trying to do from a social standpoint. And that one wasn't perfect, but it was the beginning part of the system that now I've probably got, 8 people giving some form of time to a podcast that we're doing every single week. We've got, 20 or 30 video clips that are going out every single day. I've got text only and static images going out every single day on LinkedIn. But we invested in it early, and we've continued to make it a priority for our business. And I tell agency owners all the time, if you just stand behind your 4 walls and don't talk about who you are and what you do, you're losing your opportunity to build your audience and build loyalty and actually make your brand stand for something. So I do tell this to agency owners a lot.
I love that you practice what you preach, because there's too many of us out there that say, you need to do this, but, oh, no, don't go to my website because we don't have time to do that. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Literally, you should be the guinea pig for everything you do first. And I'm glad you're doing the podcast. It's in our mastermind. I think all the members have a drinking game. Whenever I say, raise your prices and start a podcast, right? This is the 2 easiest ways to do it. And just like what you were saying, like, you interview these high-level CMOs. Well, they're probably perfect for, when they get another job or bring you in. Yep. Like, they're the perfect prospect. You build this relationship, you build this rapport, you're highlighting them. It's the easiest way to get a conversation with these people. And all these other up-and-coming CMOs or other CMOs are like, what's working for the CMO of Aflac? What's working for the CMO of Lotus Cars or whoever?
You're totally right. And then was the original strategy, is right, staying on their radar, being top of mind with relationship versus with advertising or sales and offers. And someday we'll have a little bit more of the warm leads and all that stuff that the salespeople pitch. We need to do a better job of that. But for now, we wanted to lead with brand and relationship building. It's what we preach to our clients. And so, of course, we've got to practice it ourselves.
Look, your agency adapts for every client, right? Your builder should do the same. That's why Wix Studio is built for the way you actually create. AI-powered site mapping lets you get straight down to the design. Whether you shape things in Figma or start in Studio, your vision's coming to life quicker with no-code animations and built-in responsiveness. And for client growth that actually scale, you've got extendable business solutions and a dynamic CMS. Scale your agency at wixstudio.com.
What's the distinction between, because I've always struggled with this in the past at my agency. And at the first agency, I always built, and I always concentrated on building the brand of the agency versus me. Mm-hmm. Now, it was totally different when I started doing this business. I'm like, dude, and I think it's more now than it was back then, especially with AI and recommendations. People want to do business with a personal brand rather than a corporate brand. So how, I know you have both accounts, like corporate account and your personal account for Eric. How do you distinct what content to put on what?
Yeah, right now you go to the Mavericks accounts and they're pretty dead. And I don't love that. But it's people don't wake up wanting to follow a brand. And so if you want to spend time there, you've got to do it really, really well and have a very strategic point of view. So to me, if someone's following agency, I'm probably doing that more for team recruiting than I am marketing, right? Who's going to be following an agency unless they're just doing something really different. And so we made that strategic decision to say people want to follow faces. And there was a point where we were putting all of our podcasts on the Maverick YouTube channel. And then at some point, like 6 episodes in, we were like, nope, we are going to flip it. And so all that content on Eric Gray's YouTube channel, I hid all my old family videos and stuff I've done over the years, and so it's hard to do that. But for me, it's really about prioritizing what is going to build your relationship with someone and what's going to make someone care. And all the time people come to me that are like, man, your podcast looks so good. And again, it's not rocket science. If I turn this around, it'd look cool, but it's really just a couple lights, a nice camera. I did get a new little teleprompter here that I'm working off of. So it sounds like a lot, but it's really not, right? When you think about like what you can create. And it's been invaluable when it comes to getting in people's eyes and getting in people's ears.
Yeah. What's been a struggle that you've noticed in the past couple months in the agency?
I mean, I think there's probably two. There's probably agency struggles, and there's what I would call first-time entrepreneur struggles, right? So the agency struggles are probably everything you would expect, right? You're a new company, you're growing, you're hiring and trying to build a good team. And there's things that you're just not doing to the level that you have a vision to, and so expectations aren't matching reality, and so sometimes that is hard. I think for us, one of them is just we are unrelenting about the talent we're trying to bring in. We will not bring people in that fog mirrors or have a good experience. We have a whole system for how we recruit people. And sometimes that means it takes a minute to find that right person. And that's killer. It just is. And so we've played around with using recruiters. We've done it for some success, and we've done it in not some success. And it's expensive, but it did bring us one really super talented person. And so I can't fault it. But I think that's one of the hardest things, especially being in the market that we're in. Orlando is a cool town, growing town, but it's not necessarily a hotbed for media and social and content talent. And so we really got I think I had 900 applications for a creative director role here before we got to hire our guy, Alex. And I clicked on each one of those. Like I did.
You went through each of them?
Like clicked on, saw a LinkedIn account. Yes, I at least did that much. Yeah, before I just was like,
I got something to save you some time.
All right,
next
well,
time for your next hire.
I think I did it pretty quick, but I'm sure there's better ways, Jason. There's always better ways.
So next time on your job posting, so if you post it on like, let's say Monster or LinkedIn or whatever it is, all people do is hit apply, right? And you have to go through. So what I always do at the bottom of every job description, I'll say, do not apply here. You must email me at this email address with this subject line and a video on why you think you're good at this job.
Yeah. We have something kind of similar, but we do a apply, which is like a form on our website. And then if we think you're somewhat interesting, we send you a video ask. So videoask.com link. And you literally have to video answer 4 questions before anybody talks to you. But I like that too. I like any sort of way that we can really get a chance to see who is good before we just go through a bunch of crap, because that is not.
Well, Eric, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Oh, you told me that you were going to ask me that, Jason, and then we just started talking. I think, I'll share this. I was working on something today. This is actually kind of funny and kind of relevant. I think the other side of the challenges that I talked about is kind of the first-time entrepreneur. One thing I've tried to tell myself is something I've learned from Jeff Probst. I'm a big Survivor fan, and Jeff always tells new Survivor participants to try to act like it's your second time on the show when you're playing the game of Survivor. I've tried to live this life of entrepreneurship as the second time I'm doing it. And like, what would I make? What decisions would I make? What risks would I take? And that's helped a lot. But I tell you that the hardest thing is just the mentalness of it all, right? The weight of knowing that you're building a company that's got to sustain people's lives. It's got to put food on their table. The desire for it to be further along and a big vision, but your expectations are not matching that yet. And so I can get in my own head, like I'm sure many people can. I can get blue out of nowhere. I say blue. It's, I ask my wife like once a month, I'm like, should I get medication? And she's like, no, you're fine. But like, it's hard doing this thing that we're doing. It's all on you. And you got to lead well, you got to hire well, you got to present to the clients that you got it all together. And it is hard to make it feel like everything is going is you're kind of reaching that level. And so I have the ups and the downs, and I've created a list of things over the years that has helped me. And to be honest, when I'm down, it's because I've gotten distracted from that list. So the first one is, and this isn't, none of these are going to be rocket science, I don't think, but I think just finding a way to consistently do these things, especially when you're feeling like you're not, at the right headspace that you need to. First one is work out early and hard. Push your body to do something that's not comfortable with, even if it's just 10 minutes, but you're lifting a weight that's really hard to get over your head. I love kettlebells. Morning time for me is about my time with Jesus. It's about my time in my faith. Reading your goals daily, talking about and reading your goals, and thinking about what that can look like. Daily and weekly reviews. This is a hard one for me, but I know it's so important. Spending that 10 minutes before you get into the work to kind of think about the day a little bit more. Finding a moment to get away, take a break and breathe. For me, it's just a walk outside, playing the drums, playing tennis, whatever resets you, but not always like on the weekends or at night. Really taking a minute in the middle of the day. And then this is the hardest one, Jason. It's so dumb. Go to bed. Like, I am just such a bit of a night owl. And I've got kids. And so, but if I end up, and by the way, this feeds itself, right? You go to bed, then you can get up early and push your body hard. And so I know that I think both of us have been involved in Martel's work, and he kind of has a little bit of a non-negotiable list that there's some of mine that kind of overlap with his. But if I'm not right with my head, my mind, and my spirit, it's because one of those things I'm not really spending time on. And I also want to present that, like, I suck at those too. Like, I've got such lack of discipline, and that is why I have the challenges. And I've got to come back to those moments. So that's what I would just say is for anybody out there that's struggling in the dark moments, in the hard moments, there's probably some little things you could do that don't feel like they're the obvious thing, that if you just did them consistently, would probably get your head up, get your head right.
No, I love those. At the end of the day, you can always reset the business, right? I always treated all the businesses I've ever built or failed at or been succeeded at as a game. This is a game of Monopoly, because you could work your ass off and be perfect at it, the best in the world, but sometimes the cards just don't fall and you can lose, right? But if you're just persistent and you keep pushing and keep going and be like, have that attitude where, I'm in the business of solving problems, and I'm going to constantly have a problem. Some problems I'm going to like, some problems I'm not going to like, but just enjoy the journey, because looking back at all the businesses that I've done, the ones that succeeded, the ones I haven't, the moments I remember are the ones where my team and I were stressed and it was hard. I don't really remember I remember the good times too, like some of the good pranks that we would pull at the office, which were pretty epic. But like, you always remember, the hard stuff. So it's the journey, because when you do get to the time where you have the opportunity to sell your company one day, or you call it quits, you want to look back and make sure you don't have any of the regret and be like, just like you said, when you left your job, I didn't want to think about what if. Like, I put everything on the table. I did everything I possibly could, and I got to be happy with it. And when you do that, then you can kind of wake up and be like, look, I gave it my all. I reached this. Amazing. And then you just keep having fun, because people keep putting off having fun. And I hate that. Like, every Friday, my buddies and I will always do something epic. We always call it Epic Fridays. We look forward to it. And these are kind of like bucket list items that most people wait until.
Are your kids raised?
My oldest is 19 and my youngest is 15.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. I was going to say, if they're like 27 and 25, then I will understand it more. But you still got some at home hanging out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times they want to come on the adventures.
That's good.
That's the cool part.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's a good reminder. And in the throes of it, right? 2.5 years in, you remember those days. They're tough, but we'll get on the other side as long as we just. I told somebody one time, entrepreneurship is literally just staring the hard thing in the face and just keep moving forward.
Yep.
As long as you can do that, you'll be fine. So,
well, awesome. Well, Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show. And for everyone listening, if you're tired of being kind of doing everything on your own and you want to do it with a really amazing other agency owners that see things a little bit different, that can see the things you might not be able to see, I'd love for you guys to check out agencymastery.io, where maybe this is the community that you've been looking for, that you've been needing, because it is very isolating, very alone. So go check that out now. And until next time, have a swank day.